What is going on, Florida State family? Seminole Nation, the 863 tribe. If you are a, let me think here, a Lions fan, a Bills fan, a Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I'm forgetting a team. Who am I forgetting, man? But anyway, if you're a fan of those teams, man, shout out to y'all. The Bucks, I picked the Bucks in this game too, so I feel like the Bucks are gonna win this one. Bucks are up 10-0, by the way. So we got some playoff football in the background. But it's your boy POLK. Y'all already know. And FSU, we talk about the portal and oh man, and like the way Florida State continues to attack the portal. Honestly, in a lot of ways, it's a breath of fresh air. FSU gets another portal addition today, and Bama has become this year's South Carolina. Basically, if there's a player from Bama that's in the portal, Florida State's going to go and get him. And that's exactly what is going on here. Sean Murphy, linebacker out of Alabama. Sophomore, by the way. So he's coming in here. He's got some years of eligibility. He's young, not a lot of production, but a ton of upside. And you should be excited as far as I'm concerned when it comes to this edition. Now, you're adding another inexperienced, well, in terms of game experience, probably, right? You're adding an inexperienced linebacker to a group of inexperienced linebackers. But this one's a little different, in my humble opinion, because this one has what you would call elite traits, right? This one wasn't some, diamond in the rough prospect like even Tatum Bethune was. And shout out to Tatum Bethune. Y'all know I think Tatum Bethune was absolutely pivotal for FSU's success defensively. That addition was again big time. But even Bethune wasn't some highly regarded prospect coming out of high school. Sean Murphy, on the other hand, he had a composite ranking of this 72 overall. Sean Murphy had a 97 grade overall, the 72nd player overall, the 6th linebacker in the country, and the 2nd player at the state of Virginia in the class of 2022. And that's what you're adding to your lineup. Listed at 6'2", 215 coming out of high school. I believe he's listed at 6'2", 225 at Alabama. But we can check his Bama profile real quick. I just wanted to get on here and talk a little bit of football on a Monday, because why the hell not? I don't know if I'm going to be on here super long today. I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on the new addition, man. FSU continues to add. So, yes, Bama lists him at 6'2", 225. And according to what I see here, he only registered tackles and basically 2 of Bama's blowouts. But that's okay. Number 43, we'll see what he wears at Florida State. But Sean Murphy is a solid addition. Again, you're adding to a solid line. Well, you're adding to a young linebacker room, another young linebacker. But this guy has your elite. Well, you kind of use the word elite too much, but he has your big time. We'll say big time. Nationally ranked 72 would say elite, but we'll use the word big time linebacker traits. He has that. And I want to talk about what that addition necessarily means for the room, because you're not getting a productive player. So you're getting a player with a question mark. But I think this staff has shown that they have a habit of taking unproductive players and turning them into NFL draft picks. So we're going to talk about that here. But again, man, we got some NFL ball, and I want to get to the comments because I haven't checked the comments yet. So, Jeff, there you go. Figured I'd have a comment. He, with the $5 dono, says, I love what we're getting in the portal. And plus, the players are coming back. It's going to be a fun season. Go Noles. As always, Jeff, I appreciate you.
Name is Jeff.
Bama fans can cry a river, get over it. Here's the thing. And if you guys watched the show Saturday, we alluded to it, or at least I alluded to it. What's happening to Bama in a lot of ways is a direct result of the coach they hired. Again, I'm not saying DeBoer is a bad coach. I promise you I'm not. He almost threw a pick. That damn Baker Mayfield almost threw a pick. Anyway, I'm not saying he's a bad coach. As a matter of fact, I would say the absolute opposite. You're not a bad coach when you win at every single level at the degree that he wins at. The problem is the place that hired him. You hired a guy that these kids are completely unfamiliar with. And if there's one thing that you haven't, if you follow recruiting, and if you haven't learned by now, these kids care about relationships. How does a LJ McCray go to Florida and that's a dumpster fire? Well, because of relationships. These kids, they care about relationships. So all these people who are leaving Alabama, they don't care that Deborah just was playing in the or just was coaching the national championship Washington Huskies. They could give a damn less. They don't know him. They have no relationship with him. That's why what you're seeing is what you're seeing. Whether it's smart or not from the athlete's perspective is irrelevant. What's going on at Bama is a direct result of the hire. And that's why I fully believe that Mike Norvell was legitimately vetted for that job, because the Bama Brain Trust had to know hiring somebody unfamiliar with the territory was not going to work. You think if they hired Mike, that all these guys would still be leaving when they're coming to play for Mike Norvell, right? Doesn't make sense. Again, not saying DeBoer's a bad coach, quite the opposite. He might even be successful at Bama, but it's going to take him, I believe, 3 or 4 years, because he's going to have to retool this entire team because they don't want to play for him. So he's going to have to bring in his own type of guys. It's just what's going to have to happen. Shout out Tyler. Shout out Tyler, though. And shout out to everybody in the chat, by the way. Renegade Report was good. 904. Hey, I remember I was talking about a tight end. I would love to get him too. Yeah, maybe he didn't want to be a Gator, but that's because of relationships, most likely. Usually it's about relationships. But that's just how high school, or that's how recruiting works in general. Why do you think they say even in the high school level, finishing second isn't a bad thing anymore? Because the relationship comes full circle when that kid hits the portal later on. So, Sean Murphy, man, linebacker. And again, he becomes a very interesting addition into that linebacking core. So let's talk about that for a second. Renegade Report says the best part is Norvell filled his portal class after the portal was closed. Talking about Wiggins. Who's Wiggins? Wiggins. I might not be aware of who you're talking about. Matter of fact, before we get to Sean Murphy, there is something too I want to address. If you're not aware of this, FSU got a crystal ball. I need to find it. FSU got a crystal ball for a quarterback in this year's class, by the way. In this year's class, I'm going to look it up real quick. Give me a quick second. Hold on. Somebody message me. Let me find this quarterback for y'all. I forgot all about him, honestly. But we'll find him real quick. Let's see. That's not what I want. Offers. Let's see if we can find him. Is it this guy? I honestly forget his name. I don't think it's this guy. Somebody help me out so I can find this guy. I lost him. Give me a second. No, I'm not talking about that lineman, man. I'm not going to talk about any guy that's committing in 2025 right now anyway, because what's the point? Florida's about to go through hell this season, and if we haven't learned anything as far as high school recruiting goes, don't take anything what you see in freaking January. If you're trying to take that to the bank, you're gonna be sadly mistaken. No, I could care less about the D lineman that committed to Florida today, if I'm being quite honest with you. And that's just not because he committed to Florida. That's me. I could care less about any 20. I didn't care less about the 5-star offensive lineman that Florida State got a commitment from. Could care less about that. Trevor Jackson. There we go. That's who I'm looking for. Man. My bad, guys. I want to look at Trevor Jackson real quick before we talk about the linebacker. Figure out how Mike Norvell and Tony Tokarz even pulled this one out of their hat. This page isn't loading. Hold on. Seriously. He was in the Elite 11. I think he even won one of the events, but for whatever reason, page. There his page is. All right. Let's look at Trevor Jackson. He's out of Orlando, Florida. He's in this class. 6'2.5", 185. Composite ranking of 348. He is a 90 grade, 348. So that equals 4-star blue chip. And he got a crystal ball to Florida State, by the way. Got a crystal ball to Florida State. Interestingly enough, the rumor is he'll be coming in as a walk-on. How did FSU manage to pull this out? I don't know, but that is a great addition to a quarterback room that now is flushed out. Now all of a sudden your quarterback room, and Hurts almost threw a pick. Now all of a sudden your quarterback room, 2 freshmen, a redshirt freshman, and then of course DJ. But I don't know how they convinced Trevor, who has a offer from Ole Miss. Ole Miss is considered the runner-up in this race. It looks like Ole Miss seems to be the main competitor. But yeah, Steve Wilfong put in a crystal ball for Florida State, and so we'll see what happens if they finish that one out. That's an interesting win right there. And that's a guy that, again, you bring depth as a walk-on. He'll run the scout team stuff most likely and but it's not just some, not just some guy that worked at Taco Bell. You're talking about a guy who earned a 4-star ranking. I mean, Florida State did this with Dante Anderson, another who was a 4-star prospect, and they were able to get him to. So FSU, Mike Norvell, they tend to have they have a habit, man, of getting these blue chippers to walk on the campus. So just want to go over Trevor Jackson real quick because that was the other solid news that came out of this Sunday. FSU looks to be in position to land a walk-on 4-star quarterback. Shout out to Trevor Jackson and shout out to Mike Norvell. Back to the linebacker. Before we get back to the linebacker, let's go back to the comments, what y'all talk about. Tyler says he doesn't see that there's any more needs left. Probably not. I still think they kind of need a tight end, but again, they have bodies in that room. If they evaluate them and they feel like the bodies are ready to contribute this year, we're just going to have to find out. But you went from last year having, 3 big-time tight ends, so to speak, or at least productive. And Jaheim Bell, even Biscuit was productive at points, and Morlock was productive as a JUCO. You now go to Morlock and no production behind him. A 5-star in Landon Thomas, but again, that's just a 5-star. Once you hit on campus, those stars tend to go away, and we see who can play and who can't, right? Landon Thomas, and then a bunch of guys who have been here for a while and have done nothing for you. Brian Courtney, Jarrell Powers, and Jackson West. I wouldn't mind taking a tight end. A big one hit the portal today. Don't know if FSU's in the running for that or not. I would not mind taking a tight end. I think that's the only need left. That's kind of a need to me, but we'll see. But for the most part, you're right. FSU's hit basically on everything we wanted them to hit on. So when everybody was panicking at the beginning of January, here we are. What's there left to panic about? Well, for one, you don't. So we're going to talk about that because it's not so much about starting. It's about filling the room and competing. We'll talk about that for a second. Give me a minute. He committed to Oregon. Mike's best strategy in the portal is, well, that's what I've always. So when we had these debates 3-4 years ago, when the portal complexion changed, and when the portal initially came out, I was one of the ones that was saying, yeah, you don't build a team through the portal because you can't build a team with a bunch of one and doneers. And then it switched, and overnight, once kids in NIL kind of combined and understood how to utilize it, juniors are now hitting the portal. Sophomores are hitting the portal. And now what do we see? We see true freshmen hit the portal every day now. So absolutely. Once that changed, then I was on board. I said, oh, never mind. You can absolutely sustain through the portal if you're telling me, ooh, Mike Evans got to catch that. If you're telling me that I can get guys with 3-4 years of eligibility out of the portal, oh yeah, you can do something with that. That's always been the key. If you're attacking it from that angle, you can sustain it. What's going on, Grand Champion? Or Tim? The picture says Tutu. I'm going to assume you're Tim. Y'all be changing y'all name so much. Hard for me to keep up with some of y'all. I think a true nose guard is a want for sure. I would definitely take one. I don't know if it's a need at this point, but I understand what you're saying, 904. Um, I kind of like to see a multi-year D tackle guy. Well, I think Kelly has 2 years, but I understand he's not. You know, um, that's why it really counts for Daniel Lyons, who's only a sophomore, Samson, who's only a freshman, right? Those two are going to have to take that next step, and then you'll have Denos White and these guys for next year. But I understand, I get what you're saying too. Like, that D line recruiting. Look, I'm not doing it tonight, but I give. Look, D line recruiting's got to get better. It's just that simple. But I also think the kid from West Virginia, I actually think he ends up playing inside permanently for you. He can do both. My guess is FSU is going to throw about another 10, 15 pounds on him, get him up to the 290s and move him inside. So he could be an option there for sure. And I think that's maybe also one of the reasons why FSU really didn't target a true D tackle kind of guy, I think. That's just me like guessing though, right? Do I think Bama reached out to the Mike a while back about the job and had a heads up this was coming, which might be why we were slow playing the portal? It makes sense. I mean, put the tinfoil hat on. What you're saying makes sense because remember, everybody was pissed off. Why aren't we going after X, Y, and Z in the portal? Why is Florida State not active in the portal? What's going on? And then bam, we kill the portal at the end of this thing, right? Did Mike... I'll answer this question. I don't know necessarily that Mike Norvell was contacted by Bama, but if you know, Sexton, his agent, is the agent to all of these guys. Did Sexton give Mike a heads up? Hey, Nick's ready to call it quits. Get ready. Probably. Bama may not have reached out, but Sexton probably said, hey, or maybe on behalf of Bama, Sexton hit the mic up and said, hey, the floodgates are about to open. You can either take this job or we can get you a major raise. And by the way, the portal gates are going to open up for you. You can just almost handpick at this point what you want to get. It kind of seems like that for sure. Man, shout out to the Bucks. I'm not even a Buck fan, but actually I'm happy they're looking pretty good so far. I think the Samoan, he's Tongan, but the Polynesian man, he is going to, no, he's more of a true end. Again, I think the West Virginia guy is the one that, the Derige, the African guy, he's going to be the one that I think is going to be moved inside and out. But let's talk about Murphy, man. So here's the interesting part. I don't know if Murphy comes in as a starter, but I said it earlier. He brings a level of athleticism that I'm not sure you have other than maybe Blake Nicholson. But here's the beautiful part of this. I think what kind of gets lost in the building of a team becomes we're so worried about, in a way, production's important, so I don't want to say it like that. But in building a team, we're just talking about adding guys, and what Mike Norvell, in my opinion, does extremely well in building teams. And I said it a couple years ago when they brought in all those different wide receivers, the Micah Pittmans, the Deuce Spans, and Johnny Wilsons. A lot of those guys weren't productive. That's why they were in the portal. But the reason I love the Winston Wrights, the reason I love those additions was they brought all different skill sets to the table. Murphy brings a skill set that maybe Blake Nicholson and he has. I don't know if Murphy's a guy. I don't know if Murphy's a guy that's gonna start for you. What I know is Murphy's gonna raise the floor of your room. Everybody has to compete now, and Murphy sends a message. And I'm not saying guys aren't working hard, but Murphy sends the message of if I'm Omar Graham, if I'm Blake Nicholson, if I'm Cryer, if I'm DeMarco Ward, Murphy sends the message of it's time to get to work. They're all young and can grow together, but Murphy puts pressure on some of these. We call all those linebackers that I just mentioned. What is the theme of all of them, with the exception of Blake Nicholson? They were all 3-star gems. Well, frankly, I don't think any of those gems have had to perform under pressure, because there's no pressure knowing that you're playing behind Tatum Bethune, DJ Lundy, and Kalen DeLoach. No pressure to play. Now all of a sudden, that room's wide open. Playing time everywhere. And now you bring a guy who brings instant pressure to that room. If they're a true gem, the pressure will mold them into that gem that some people want to say that they are. And it remains to be seen. But Murphy brings that pressure, in my opinion. Theoretically speaking, best case scenario is that your starting linebackers are a combination of Blake Nicholson. I mean, Blake Nicholson and Murphy are the two guys with the highest upsides in that room. They're the blue chippers. They're the legit 4-star linebackers. So let's see what happens. Let's see if pressure busts pipes or molds a diamond. That's what I'm excited to see with the addition of Murphy. And that's why I'm a little bit more excited in bringing Murphy, who, again, is not productive. But then I am, if they would have brought in some fifth-year super senior from Charlotte or whatever, who I'm not saying I wouldn't have been happy for that addition, because I would have been. But again, to me, that doesn't put pressure on these young men. That simply says, oh, he's going to start. I can continue to work the way I've worked. Now maybe it's like, okay, nothing's going to be given to me. Let's see what cream rises to the top. That's kind of how I translate this edition. That's me being very optimistic about it. Again, I like the addition, but in terms of what the linebacking room looks like next year, it's hard for me to judge. What's going on, Pat? I think Murphy will come in with something to prove, being in that stacked linebacker room. I hope, and that's the hope, right? Murphy comes up with something to prove, but that also wakes up some of these other guys. Murphy is a cover backer. We're going to the ship. We're going to find out. I don't know if Nicholson's going to be. You got to remember, man, Nicholson was a true freshman. So Murphy played 2 years at Bama, redshirt at one, and was a redshirt freshman this past year. And he wasn't necessarily ready. So I'm not putting too much pressure on Blake, but I would like to see Blake be ready. I feel like Nicholson, and I don't disagree with that. Unfortunately, some of these guys are playing more players playing sooner than they should be. But linebacker is a little bit different of a position, and I've always kind of said this about backers, that backers aren't made, backers are born, and you can, even as a freshman, you can see a guy that's just naturally a backer. So we'll see, man. Omar Graham's definitely in a weird spot in that room. He's on his redshirt sophomore year. Theoretically, he should be in the running. But here you go. You bring in Murphy. You already have Blake Nicholson. Cryer, in a lot of ways, probably has outperformed Omar Graham when they've been on the field. I would argue that the true freshman Cryer has looked better on field than Omar Graham has. Graham is in a weird spot. And again, hopefully this addition wakes him up. But maybe some of these guys can't be woken up. And they are just what their talent level said they were coming out of high school. I said it, I've said it all the time. We always talk about developing. Not everybody develops. Some people just are who they are. We'll find out. We'll find out. I hope we get one more seasoned linebacker. And do you think we get Isaiah Bond already committed to Texas? So no. And I don't think we're going to target another receiver anyway. So I would like for us to go after him. I don't know if we get him, but I would like to at least make the call. And that's the thing. That's what. But I think. I mean, we're gonna find out. Some of them gyms ain't. I said it all along. Some of them gyms ain't gyms. Not everybody's a hidden gym. Just not. Some of them guys ain't it. Some are. I'm sure. Let's see. Out of Omar Graham, not counting Blake Nichols. Out of Omar Graham, DeMarco Ward, Justin Cryer, then you're bringing in two more guys who are very lowly ranked. Out of five, realistically, man, the best case scenario is like 2 out of the 5 hit. Realistically, 1 out of those 5 is probably going to hit. You can't recruit at that level and think that you're getting 3 and 4. Like, even if they were all 5 stars, the best case scenario for recruiting 5-star linebackers is like 3 of those guys were to hit. So it's just it's about numbers. Is London going to be? He's probably going to. I mean, preferably, I wouldn't. Probably. He probably is going to get the nod. Bucks are up 16-3, but Philly has the ball. 5 minutes left in the first half. Julio, man, still out here playing football, man. Shout out to Julio. Yeah, man, I think the linebacker room is going to be the most. That's going to be the most talked about, discussed room going into the season because I think every other position group is pretty much shored up, and every other position group is. And even if it wasn't shored up high school wise, they addressed it in the portal. They addressed linebacking room in the portal, but again, it's with another player that's not necessarily a productive player. So we're getting upside here. But FSU has a trend of acquiring Trey Benson, who, like, I remember when FSU announced that they were taking Trey Benson, and the fan base was up in arms, myself included. Was not happy of the take. Some of your favorite podcasters and beat writers weren't happy with that take. It just didn't make sense at the time because he was coming off a knee injury, but they saw something in Trey, and Trey Benson ended up being an incredible addition. Johnny Wilson was almost out of college football. Nobody wanted him out of Arizona State. They didn't want him. FSU took him. He'll be a second-round pick. So they have a habit of taking guys with no production and boom. But they also, Deuce Spann, and he still hasn't had quite. But Deuce Spann has kind of carved out him a little role in kick returns here at Florida State. Ooh, good throw from Hurts to Devontae Smith. Big time throw, big time catch. So now, Keziah Holmes wasn't productive. So they've taken guys like Sean Murphy before. Some have hit. Some still waiting to see, and some haven't hit. So we're gonna end up seeing what happens for sure. So the more I think about Roydell, touchdown Philly. The more I think about Roydell, the more he might be a running back one. And I say that because LT, again, we all talk about the unique role that Philly has. Williams might be running back one. I think he was brought in for two reasons: to help with the transit, to help Cam Davis, and to put pressure on Keziah. And if Keziah don't step up to the plate, I think Roydell might be the guy. DT a little thin. It's the top of the board is, I think, okay. The problem is I don't know if we can afford any injuries. Jackson, Farmer, fortunately, no Briggs. I was hoping to keep Briggs. He would have been a great depth piece. Jackson, Farmer, Grady Kelly, Daniel Lyons, KJ Sampson. What is that, 5? That's a decent rotation right there. Again, you can't afford any injuries. And then again, I think the kid from West Durajao, I think he rotates some in there as well. So that gives you about 5.5 because he's going to play in and out. And I don't expect anything from your two freshmen you're bringing in. So theoretically, yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing in another D tackle for sure. And like I said Saturday, I wouldn't have been mad either way. Nobody was. Anybody that says, I won't say anybody, but most, what? Oh, they tried a 2-point. And why would you go for 2 there? It's 10-16. If you just kick the field goal, I don't understand going for 2 right there. And now it's a 7-point game, right? So I don't but okay. I'm excited to see which one of these young backers takes the next step during spring. I see Holmes hitting the portal after the spring. I don't think so. The reason I say I don't think so is because Keziah, now the battle's end, just because you up with the battle's end, doesn't necessarily mean I guess they can't get out of it. I don't know what the legality of that is, how that works. But he up with the battle's end this offseason. Keziah Holmes did. So if you pay attention to the trend, that usually means he's not hitting the transfer portal. Maybe a Singleton. I don't know if I see any. I don't know if I see a running back hitting as of right now. I think Rodney Hill was the guy that hit the portal that they weren't expecting. I think they knew C.J. Campbell would. I don't think Rodney Hill. As a matter of fact, I know they knew C.J. Campbell would. You can tell who Mike Norvell was expecting to hit the portal and who blindsided the staff. Everybody who was expected to hit the portal, they got a nice little note from Norvell saying, "Hey, great player," just praising the player and the human being. Guys that kind of blindsided the staff didn't even get mentioned. Rodney Hill was one of those. So I think Rodney Hill was the guy you lost that they weren't expecting to lose. Because I think if you have Rodney Hill, I don't think you pursue a Roydell Williams if you have Rodney Hill. Teams come together very well. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm gonna be right back. 1 second. All right, back to what I was saying. Um, yeah, even in this bridge year, I feel like we can be really good. I'm gonna be honest with you. I like the way this team's taking shape, and I'm gonna tell you, I don't disagree with you, man. I think if some guys hit, your bridge year can be another year where you're talking about a top five team in the country, and I mean that. This is Christopher Lee Miller. What's going on, Chris? POLK. Odell can't recruit, but he can develop. That's got to be good. I mean, it is what it is at this point. You still need depth, but we'll see. You say Hill was always the odd guy. Well, I don't think the staff felt Hill was the odd guy out. If you actually look at the snaps, Hill got more snaps than Keziah Holmes. If you ask me, Keziah might have been the odd guy out. I disagree with that. Actually, I think the staff had high hopes for Rodney Hill. If you look at the amount they played him, the games they played him in, I think they were grooming Rodney to take the next step. You talk about Quayshawn Sapp. I mean, like again, the players that left, you just know who left on the right terms and who left on the wrong terms. They still have good luck with injuries throughout the season. Actually, I our O line this year was plagued with injuries, bro. Our two starting left tackles barely played this year. That is not good luck with injuries. We just built so much depth along the O line, you really didn't see it. Bless Harris, in 2 years at Florida State, barely played for you. The first year, played a game, didn't play the rest of the year. This year, again, man could barely play 20 snaps a game for you. Him and Robert Scott. That's your two starting tackles. Your left and your right tackle could not play for you this year. That has the injury bug like decimated your roster? No. Um, but your O line was pretty banged up all year. Keon Coleman, at a certain point, you could tell he was not 100% healthy by the end of the year. They were banged up by the time that ACC championship game came around. Obviously, Jordan Travis goes down. Um, yeah, I think they were a lot more banged up than obviously they report. Mike Norvell was very tight lipped with the injuries. But your O line was. There's a reason Darius won ACC first team because he played so much because of the injuries along your O line. So yeah, I think the roster shaping up very well. Obviously, I talked about the offense and how I feel like it's built towards DJ. They're building it towards strength. If you go watch majority of DJU's highlights, what are they? They're deep passes. Again, he can throw the ball deep. He throws a pretty deep ball, by the way. Um, so they bring in a bunch of speed. You're gonna counter. I think you're gonna have a lot of play action in the offense next year, and then also just jumbo run packages. Maybe they don't go get a tight end. maybe Jackson West and Jabril Powers, maybe they fit the blocking scheme that they want. And maybe they'll go away from the receiving heavy tight end room that was this past year to, okay, we have Morlock as the receiving threat, but everybody else going to be a big time blocker. And then you have the downhill run game, which I obviously think will be a factor. I think you're going to run the ball with DJ too. I think that is going to be a pivotal part of this offense. Is him running the ball, especially in those short yard situations, and then obviously taking your big shots deep. I hope so. Supposedly the Bama tight end is going to Texas. I feel like Texas and Florida State are taking any good player that's in the portal at this point. So that's not even surprising. That's not even surprising at this point. Like anybody that's in the portal right now, they're either going to Texas or FSU. So I agree with that. I said that myself. I kind of wish we kept Biscuit at this point. Might act like he took that snub personal. He should take it personal. Absolutely, he should take it personal because it was in my opinion, it was personal. Guarded in gold until I'm dead and cold. You think Harbaugh's? Yeah, I definitely. If you they're a DB just decommitted from Michigan, and he's been committed to them for a couple years now. I think that might be a hard tell sign that Harbaugh is probably on the way out. So that's I think that's another job that's going to open up. Washington signed, or they're going to get the Arizona coach, so the Arizona job's now open, and I think Harbaugh will go to. There's going to be some jobs opening up. I think the last I read, he interviewed for the Chargers job. So yeah, I think Harbaugh is going to be he's going to take another crack at the NFL. I think. Good for him. Yeah, McCarthy did just declare for the draft too. So maybe a couple signs that Harbaugh's probably on his way out. Yeah. Yep. I don't know like who would be in the running to take that Michigan job. That's a big job that just opened. Well, that allegedly may open up the Michigan job. If Harold Perkins hit the portal and we not all over that, I'm going to be sick. We need Caleb Downs doesn't come here. So I don't know how many more spots we have left, but obviously we're not going to grab everybody out of the portal. Harold Perkins doesn't really fit with what we do. I understand the caliber of football player he is, but if you look at how LSU tried to use him this year and what made him effective the previous year, he needs to be rushing the passer. Well, we don't use small pass rusher. Now, they tried to play him as kind of that traditional backer this year, and it didn't quite work out for Harold. So I don't think Perkins is going to hit the portal, but if he does, I don't think FSU will pursue him. And Caleb Downs hasn't made a decision yet. Again, I don't think FSU is going to pursue him either. I can't remember, but yes, he did. Panama. Come on, you don't remember if Josh Sweat played at Florida State? Man, you call yourself a Florida State fan. It's crazy. So yeah, everybody that hits, bro, we're not gonna take. But Florida State did their due diligence. Obviously, they didn't go after got early names in the portal, and here we are now. We're kind of cleaning up on the back end. And again, the roster's taking form. You've got a lot of competition in pretty much every room on this. Like I can't think. The only room, in my opinion, that doesn't really have comp is that D tackle room. I'm not counting quarterback because yes, DJU's coming to be the quarterback, but I think Brock Glenn and Luke Cromahope, and now this walk-on quarterback, those guys might actually have decent competition. But Farmer and Jackson go into next year knowing that their spots are all but solidified. Maybe Lions can push one of the two, but Farmer and Jackson are pretty much going into next year unbothered by anything that's behind them. That's either a good or a bad thing. Preferably, I would like to keep the pressure on them, but we'll see. Zion already committed to Missouri. So, no, you're not getting Zion. Not getting him. Committed to Missouri today. What's going on? Insane. And plus, he's another edge rusher that I don't really think fits. Not saying he doesn't fit the team, but he doesn't fit your needs at this point, in my humble opinion. You address pass rusher. I'm good with that. You don't really need Zion. That D tackle room scares me because they could hit the portal come springtime, and we are screwed. I've been talking about that D tackle room for a while now. And until I see Daryl Jackson and Joshua Farmer like re-up with Battle's End, I think you should be wary of those two. They haven't necessarily shown to be, how do I say this, the most rock solid. Right? Daryl Jackson has shown that he'll transfer from Maryland to Miami. So Daryl Jackson's already transferred twice. Farmer has flirted with transferring every offseason so far, though allegedly he wasn't going to transfer. This past one was a completely made up lie and whatever. Until I see a Battle's End announcement with those two, I'd be iffy. The hope is they stay. Obviously, you need them both to stay. Yes, and like I said, because you don't recruit the position well, everybody keeps telling me develop. Because you don't recruit that position well, because you don't bring in anybody who gives them instant pressure on the back end. Like you said, they can demand what they want. There's no real threat to them, and they know it. If we still had Malcolm Ray and Dennis Briggs, they would be great rotation guys, but they wouldn't be taking their spots either. But we'd be deeper for sure. Um, 22 and 21, some of those guys, yeah, are coming here now. Farmer was just shopping himself for 2 straight off seasons. Yeah, unfortunately. So again, the rooms are taking place. The D tackle room is the only room that I feel like man, Devontae Smith's a beast. Now in college, that's a catch. Wish we'd have kept Tafasi. Well, he wanted to go to Georgia Tech. I would like to keep a couple of those young defensive tackles. So Bishop Thomas, who ended up going to Colorado. I wonder how much he plays next year. Tafasi, who the entire offseason everybody told me he was the second coming of Corey Simon or Travis Johnson. and yet he hit the transfer portal and it goes to Georgia Tech of all places. So we'll see what happens. I would like to keep all those young guys, but we didn't. So here we are. The wide receiver I really want is Silas Bolden. Who is that? I'll look him up. I don't know who that is, but I'll look him up. Silas Bolden. Silas Bolden. 247. Oregon State. Why do we want Silas? Why do we want the 5'8", 457? Is it just because he played with DJ? Because I'm good with the guys we got. Just saying. If we just want him because he played with DJ, then okay, then that makes some sense. You know, a wide receiver that he's got a rapport with. 54 catch. I mean, solid numbers. 700 yards, 5 TDs, 54 catches. But I got that on the roster. I wholeheartedly believe I got a Silas Bolden on my roster. All 5'8", 157 of them. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm not going to go. Yeah, I'm good. No, I'm not taking that. Maybe early in the process, through the portal, if you weren't getting anything else, you could take that. I'm not taking that. I can't get that. I got that on the roster. I believe I have that on the roster already. That's just me, though. Well, that's been my thing with Farmer from the jump. You keep shopping yourself to get more money. If you think you're that guy, go to the NFL. That's the ultimate pay raise right there. We'll see if he circles back. I decommitted from Alabama. At one point, we were allegedly the favorite for him, and then he committed to Bama kind of out of. I think I have froze. Am I back now? I think I'm back. Did I freeze for a little bit, y'all? I felt like I had frozen. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, I think we do. I think Hakeem can do what he can do, and he's bigger. Jaylen Brown can do what he can do, and he's bigger. Like, I mean, I hear you. You watched him. He's electric. Is he still in the transfer portal? I mean, I ask these questions because if he's that guy, he'd have a home. You feel me? Like, I'm not saying you don't know what you're looking at. I'm just saying if he's that guy, why is he still lurking around the transfer portal? Do we still smoke I think shout out to Miami again. I think I'm not going to say anything negative about Cam Ward because if you don't know, I'm a Cam Ward fan. So just because he's going to Miami don't mean that I'm not going to still like root for his success, so to speak. Obviously, that becomes a little tougher now. I'm disappointed in Cam Ward, not because necessarily he went to Miami, but If you're telling me you're trying to improve your draft stock, I don't know how going to play for Mario does that for you. That's just me, though. He's definitely going to. Cam Ward's going to be the best quarterback Mario's had since Herbert. So it's going to be interesting to see how he uses him. There should be no excuse for Mario next year, right? You got the O-line that everybody's going to say is one of the best O-lines in the country, and fair point. I don't quite know who their receivers are. I guess Jacoby George is going to be one of them. I think. Wait, isn't Restrepo coming back? I think. So they still have Restrepo. They still have George. I guess one of the young receivers will have to step up. There won't be any excuse for Mario. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there should be no excuse for Miami's offense to look the way it's looked the past 2 years, barring, of course, a quarterback injury. Should be no excuse. So, that being said, maybe we'll see Miami twice next year. Maybe Miami actually compete for something relevant next year. Well, I think KCS. I think the traits are kind of identical. By maximizing DJ for 1 year, you also are building for Luke. What's Luke's biggest trait? He's a young athlete himself. He has the height, but he doesn't have the mass of DJ. But they'll put weight on him. But what is his strength? He's got a cannon. Luke is another big arm quarterback. So while maximizing DJ for the year, you also add guys to help Luke in the upcoming year. Absolutely, you're doing both. You're killing two birds with one stone. And even Brock has shown that he has a pretty decent deep ball. So it kind of seems that way, doesn't it? Until you kind of lock in with Battle's End, your status is kind of like, okay. Cam going from day 2 pick to day. Man, it's crazy. Was this a top 4 FS? Well, hell, they went undefeated. How many FSU teams went undefeated? Hell, one of the championship teams didn't even go undefeated. It's kind of hard to say that they aren't a top 4 team of all time. They went undefeated, man. Beat Clemson on the road. Beat Florida on the road. Beat LSU neutral site. I mean, I don't want to open up old wounds, but again, we'll never forget, right? That's one of the biggest, craziest things about the playoffs, though. If you take away Florida State's name and you put their schedule in front of anybody, and on that schedule it has LSU, Clemson, Florida, and Miami, just those schools alone, everybody is saying, okay, regardless of what the other records of those teams were, those names alone, everybody would go, you scheduled that's a decent schedule. It's a great question, though. It's hard to say they're not. The temperature in Texas, what is the temperature in Texas right now? It's in the teens, I believe. Temperature in Texas. Right now, the temperature is 19 degrees. You favor I don't know if I favor Florida against Miami. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's nothing about Florida's roster, like at least with Miami. You can say again they have a good O-line. At least with Miami, you can go, okay, they have a couple pieces on that D-line. Well, they got Ruben Bain. They lost Leonard Taylor. I don't really know what they're replacing anybody on that D-line with. But at least offensively, I can go, okay. When you look at the Gators, what position group on the Gators do you go? You give the edge to? I don't know, man. I don't know about that. Yes, I talked about that Saturday. I talked about Saturday or yeah, but we got crystal ball for him, which again um, is surprising. Only because what's I think what's even more surprising isn't that you're actually getting him, is that he hasn't taken any other visits, which is weird. That he reclassed and didn't take a single visit other than Florida State. Like, why didn't he just sign on the early signing period? But hey, that's a good get. He's not really going to do anything for you next year, but that's a good get going forward. Oh, it was better than Michigan's for sure. The schedule was better than Michigan's. Shout out to Michigan though; they still won every game, but our schedule was better than Michigan's. You think they were a frustrating team in what way? Actually, they were again an interesting team. Frustrating. I don't know. Were they frustrating? Maybe. Oh, I know they lost Matt Lee. Yeah, they lost the Bama kid. So they actually have to replace a center and a guard. We'll see how they do there. Um, the thought process is Miami should have a decent O line. Um, the real crazy thing is going to be Florida State's O line and how does that evolve? That is a position of as you can talk a little bit more about positions. I'm not going to be here too long. I'm already over an hour. Might go for another 15, 20. Florida State's O line is going to be very interesting to watch because you brought in Ferguson, who I expect to be in the mix. Then you brought in Richie Leonard, who, for all intents and purposes, was Florida's best O lineman. If you actually watch him, I watch some of his highlights. I see what Atkins likes about him. For a guy his size, he's very has good feet. He actually moves pretty well. You can pull him. Something that they kind of complain that Keandre Jones didn't do well. So I'm interested to see how they use Richie. Again, is he the center? Is he a guard? Ferguson and Keandre's in the mix. Did you still bring back Mo? Robert Scott's back. I don't have big expectations for Robert, but he is back. But Byers is also back. Darius comes back. Julian and Early are in the mix. Can again, and I said it before, and I'll say it again. If Lucas Simmons can take some type of step to fulfill, you know, the expectations that he has, all of a sudden that O line is pushed over the top. You know, if Lucas Simmons is able to actually play at all next year, so FSU's O line is going to be the one that has a chance to really shake up the projection of what this team can be in 24. As it stands right now, assuming the O line is let's just assume the O line's average, which I guess you could say was what they were this past year. They were about a C to C plus O line for the most part this past year. So let's say the O line just is the same. They don't get any better. They just stay stagnant. I think FSU goes from 13-0. Then you look at the schedule. The schedule's not exactly tough, but you'll have a few tough games. You'll have the Miami game. You'll have some tough games. They go from 13-0 to I think probably 10-2. And that's not even what we're really looking at the schedule like that. Probably 10-2. Like, it's going to be extremely hard to repeat undefeated. And again, that's what they average O line. I think the position groups everywhere else is pretty much good enough that with an average O line you can go 10-2. If it can go over, if they can take the next step, But again, and Lucas Simmons could be like a legit left tackle for you. That like Byers is on the bench in the rotation and not being asked to start. If Ferguson is or Keandre, like if some guys just take the next step at 10-2, the O line goes 11-1, maybe 11-1. You're probably in the playoff. You know, you're back in the ACC championship. I think you're probably going to be in the ACC championship regardless. Um, Again, undefeated's hard, so I'm not going to come in here and tell you that they're going to go clean sweep. But a 12-1 season, something like that, 11-2 season, regular season, counting the ACC championship, I think could be the expectation. That's true. We were just notoriously slow starters in 2023. Yeah, I don't disagree. That's what I'm saying, man. If we can just get some guys, man, to step up. SMU is going to have a good team. But how will that transition to the ACC would be the big question for SMU. Again, I don't. Downs isn't officially in the portal yet, so I don't know if FSU. And then, no. Well, I don't want to say no. A player like Downs, you would go, yeah. If he's in the portal, you don't not give him a call. But this is where we talk about the resources, and this is where we talk about prioritizing certain things. Like you don't sign the best secondary in the country, add Earl Little to it, um, and then still go after Caleb Downs. Okay, sure, cool. I just don't know if that's on the priority list. I'm never gonna say not target a player like that. It's just, you know what I mean. Like you're good enough, if not better, in the back end. Not necessarily better than Caleb Downs, but what I'm saying is you're good. You have big time talent in your secondary that you can prioritize. If FSU has a roster spot, I don't think Downs is who you spend it on. And I don't know how many more roster spots we have available. But if you really want me to start telling big time lies, you get me a legit nose guard, and yeah, you get me somebody to add to that interior D line depth. Not only that is going to add to the depth, but maybe if you can find someone who can even compete with Farmer and Jackson, then I'll really be like, okay, we doing something. We're doing something for real. And I have a feeling he kind of stays at Bama too. But I agree with this. I think he's either Bama or he's going to follow his coach to Georgia. Great question. I don't know. I'm thinking as of right now, it's the Ravens and the 49ers. That's why I would pick. But it's the NFL. The beautiful thing about the NFL is it never goes as planned. Literally anybody can be anybody on a Sunday. Because coaching matters the most in the NFL. Everybody's talented in the NFL. Coaching is what really matters. I'm going with Baltimore versus 49ers, and I'll say the Lamar Jackson. The Ravens win the Super Bowl. Great question. Who has a D tackle that wants to damn climb? Because I need some climbers. I need some damn climbers. What is Baker doing? My expectation right now is another ACC championship. I'm not even going to lie to you. I expect them to field a very, very good team next year. I think a lot of these additions are going to push a lot of guys. And I think this offseason, more so than any offseason in Mike Norvell's tenure, this offseason is going to be a real make it or break it for a lot of guys. This offseason is going, Baker got crushed. This offseason is going to be a real wake-up call for some of these players. I think they added pieces to receiver, to D-line, to DN specifically, even DB room with the class they brought in. This might be a wake-up call for some of these position groups. Niners versus Bills. Okay. That's what I'm saying. You bring in Earl Lip, there's gonna be a wake up call for something. Again, I think Murphy was that addition to the linebacker room that might wake up some of these guys. I think Murphy getting a new change of scenery, a new chance to be the guy, might wake his ass up. And now, that's really the only question I have about this team going into next year. Is the linebacking room. Now, that is assuming, again, that Farmer and Jackson are still on this team. I would be a little concerned with the depth at that D tackle room. I think your top 3 or 4, though, get the job done. Your top 3 and 4 being, again, Jackson, Farmer, Kelly, and Lyons. I think that's good. But your linebacker room is going to be the huge question. Like, if there's one position in the spring, when April runs around, if there's one position that you should watch, is the linebacking. Who's starting, but not just who's starting. Forget who's starting. Who looks like they know what they're doing. Who do you think hits the portal then? And I like I said, I got another. Let's say I'll go another 10 minutes, y'all. And I'm gonna get on up out of here. I'll be honest with you. I think Clemson might have a very similar year to this past year. They recruited a decent class, but their class was 3rd in the ACC, if I'm not mistaken, behind Florida State and Miami. And then you add no additions in the transfer portal to supplement any weak spots on your program, and your Klubnik's coming back. So what are you giving Klubnik in terms of weapons? You expect this freshman receiver to be it for him? I hope not. You lost Shipley to the draft. Clemson probably repeats a very similar season than to what they just had, if you ask me. Everybody's moving around Clemson, and Clemson's stagnant. And I don't see how they get better. Dabo probably has as long as he wants. He brought them 2 natties. And Clemson isn't exactly a place of expectation. That's the beautiful thing for Dabo Swinney, which is why Dabo probably, obviously with the Bama job opening up, right, didn't leave. He is they don't put the pressure on him because there's no expectation in Clemson. There never was. Dabo exceeded every expectation Clemson ever had. Dabo's not Florida State. No, Dabo. Clemson's not Florida State. Clemson's not Ohio State. Clemson's not Alabama. Clemson's not any of these programs where by year 3, if you're not winning something of significance, if you're not winning double-digit game, they want you out of here, right? Clemson's cool. Believe it or not, Clemson's cool. They cool. They cool where they at. We'll see if Kevin Knowles is on this roster after there. So there will be guys after the spring. Antoine kind of spoke to it, but he didn't give me any players. I was curious to see what players he thought would be cut. But if you ask me, if players that might be on the chopping block after spring, with the additions of Lester and Bates, who are early enrollees, Earl Little, Kirkland coming back from injury, Edwin Joseph coming back from injury, Hussey taking the next. With all of these DBs in that room, AZ, Cypress is back. Greedy Vance, obviously. And that's not even counting Jamari Howard. So I don't know if Ricky Knight is. I don't think Ricky Knight's early enrollee or not, but that's Ricky Knight still coming on the team. Kevin Knowles could be on the chopping block. He could be on the Rawls. How do you even mention Quindarius Jones? A bunch of guys, man. A bunch of guys in that DB room. Knowles might be the guy that's left out of that. I think Trotter went to the NFL. The other one came back. And I actually think the other one is better than Trotter. Deuce is interesting, though I think he might fit this particular offense more so than the previous one under Jordan Travis. Hester, yes. Anderson, maybe. I kind of want him to stick around and compete. And any of the younger DBs. Again, Knowles would be the DB. I can't think of any other DB. What are you doing back there? Yeah, I agree with that. I think secondary is going to be the strength of the defense for sure. I think your secondary will be good enough that it will allow your defensive line to catch up. You got to turn that down, though. But your D line is going to have to play catch up, I think, because turn it down. Hey, turn it down, or go over there. Either one, you pick. There you go. Man, come in here, start blaring the iPad. The Marvin Jones Jr. is still a question. I think he's going to be a good player? Yes. Collegiately, he hasn't shown it. So I think some of these question marks on the D line, your O line, not your O line, your DBs will give a chance to catch up. I think your DBs are going to be pretty good, though. Probably a little easier, but we do have Notre Dame as out of conference. I think you play. Don't you play Memphis too next year? I think you play Memphis and Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to be interesting. Notre Dame might be the toughest game. Is Notre Dame tougher than the LSU game? Probably not. Do we have Notre Dame a home or away? It's a great question. I don't know. Okay. And of course, I think you still have Miami and Florida. I'm assuming we still play Clemson next year too. I'm assuming that ACC would not get rid of that game. So Notre Dame, Clemson, Florida, but I don't think it's going to be any good. And Miami, it's still your 4. I think you have Memphis. So Memphis should be a solid game. Notre Dame away game. That's a tough game. It's a tough game. You added what? SMU and is it Cal? Is Cal? Do we play Cal next year? Maybe it's harder. Maybe it's a slightly tougher schedule. Maybe. I forgot all about Barker. I forgot all about that name. I didn't even mention that name, but it's a name to watch. And the reason, not necessarily to hit the portal, but I do understand why you might think that. The reason I don't think Barker, or the reason why I think Barker is, I will say, kind of in the clear is not the right word. I have decent expectation for Ashton Barker from the simple fact of he's built a little differently than the rest of your DBs in that room in terms of his size and his length. Right? Barker could legit move him to the line, but you can put enough weight on him. He has the frame at 6'3", and he's already 200 plus. They might find a role for that, is my point. I wouldn't be any mean to him. I gave him a chance to turn it down. Wouldn't turn it down. Last season, I didn't expect anything from him last season. He was a true freshman. Technically, he was a redshirt freshman, but he was injured his 1 year at JUCO. So he was a true freshman. So I never had expectation for Barker. I like his size. I like his measurables. If they can find a way to use his measurables, I think they can find again, iron sharpens iron, guys. I'll wait and see. I like Barker's measurables. What's going on, Momo? I didn't mind bringing him in for depth purposes. Remember, leading up to last year, what was my main issue of concern? The safety position. You had Shaheem Brown and nobody else, which was obvious. Excuse me, you had Shaheem Brown and Akeem Dent. That was it. Forgot about Akeem. Shout out to Akeem. I hope you get drafted, but I'll be following you in the NFL. But shout out to Akeem. But you had those two, and behind them you had nothing. And thank God they hit on Conrad Hussey. Because if it wasn't for Hussey, because Knowles was pretty bad. Terrible, as a matter of fact. 3 was bad at that position. 3's better at nickel. 3 was bad at that position. Thank the heavens that Conrad Hussey came along. It's a much deeper room this offseason. Going to be a competitive fight. I love the idea that the competition if you listen to the championship teams, I just love the idea that the practices are going to be harder than the games. You listen to 2013's team, the practices were hard. You listen to most championship teams, the practices are harder than the games. That's why I'm so intrigued by this roster. There's a chance that the practices and the level of talent that has been infused on this roster, your practices may be tougher than the games you play. Burrell's definitely probably going to – I still wonder how Burrell is even still here. No, I know you're joking. They saying Texas is after him, but I want him here. I'm not even going to waste my time on that. I'll let y'all talk about that. I'm not going to get into 25 recruiting right now. Quite honestly, I don't care about anywhere those kids commit because they ain't going to stay there, most likely. Yeah, and they brought in Brown for depth. That's what I'm saying. So they've raised the floor of all of these rooms. I think there's going to be a lot of legit competition in these rooms, and what you're going to see on Saturday is going to be a product of that. I think Earl could play any position on the roster. Me personally, I would not be shocked if Earl Little was playing opposite of AZ. I don't foresee him at safety. If Earl Little, don't be shocked if Earl Little is playing opposite of Azariah Thomas next year. I think Rodell Williams will be the starting running back. I said that. I think he'll be in the running for another ACC title. You'll be at worst, and this is way too early prediction. I still got to see how the team looks. Spring is not an indicator of success necessarily, but there are things you can watch for in the spring that tells you is the football team good or not, in my opinion. Good's the wrong word. Are certain players in certain positions flashing to project to being good is what I'm trying to say. So I'll wait on that, but as of January, 9-3 at worst. I think 9-3 at worst is your floor. And that means DJU is, it's 9-3. 9-3 at worst. Because there's a lot of new things. Williams to me is James Wilder, slightly faster. I do think AZ starts over Cypress. I think Cypress is already read up with the battle's in. No, I think Cypress is in for the long haul. I think Cypress is in for the long haul. Well, see, here's the problem with that, though. The play against Miami, where Jacoby George, that's not a physical play. That's a dumb play. So you tell me he's smart enough to play anywhere, but then he makes a dumb play. As a matter of fact, a lot of the problems, if you go watch Knowles, they're not physical plays that he had a problem with. It's taking poor angles. Just being out of position. So, yeah, no. I know what the coaches say, but his play on the field does not show me a player that was smart at that position. Maybe at nickel he played better. And safety, he looked at a place like he didn't know what was going on. Nothing to do with him being physical. And with that said, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and get up out of here, though. Did a quick little Monday night live stream. I was on longer than I intended to. Y'all get me talking football, and I just lose track of time. But that's all good. That's all good. I enjoy it. Go ahead, man. Hit the like button on the way out if you didn't hit on the way in. But please hit the like button for me. I don't know where my likes are at right now. But we should at least have, I think I got 70 people in here, so I should at least have 60 likes. So please get the likes up for me. Share the video, please. That's also a great way to continue to grow our platform. Yeah, and then subscribe for whatever reason. If you wanted a 66 people in here watching, and for whatever reason you're not subscribed, please subscribe for your boy. And of course, I don't usually promote this stuff, but if you would like to be a member of the 863 tribe, there aren't a lot of perks that come with it. I'm not going to lie to you. I lost my t-shirt guy, so I'm trying to get that back going, man, for y'all. So I apologize. The t-shirt guy just went ghost on me. And I was paying him decent money for them damn shirts too, but whatever. So honestly, there's not a lot of perks that come with being a tribe member. It's just another way to support. And I think it's super cheap. So it's like 99 cents, something stupid like that. I don't usually promote it, but if you want to be a tribe member, please become a member of the 863 tribe. And As always, y'all, it's your boy Pope over here on 863 Seminole TV. Y'all stay classy. I'm going to go ahead and finish watching the rest of this game. And we are out here. Go Knowles. That roster's coming together, y'all. Roster's coming together. And as of January 2024, it's looking pretty good. Looking pretty good for them Knowles. I'm out here, y'all. Y'all have a good rest of y'all night. And stay warm out there, too, man. This winter blast is, it's cold out there.